So parallelograms, all of those have two pairs of parallel sides, right? Trapezoids have only one pair of parallel sides. Can you be a trapezoid and a parallelogram at the same time? No. You cannot. Shapes are either trapezoids or they're parallelograms. They can't be both because parallelograms require two pairs of parallel sides and trapezoids only one. Okay, so please make sure you have that written on slide 1. Everybody have that written on slide 1, whether you're on the Google Slides or the Pear Deck? What I have written on the screen. So parallelograms all have two pairs of parallel sides. You should have this written on your slide 1 on whichever platform you're on. And trapezoids only have one pair of parallel sides. So trapezoids have one pair of parallel sides. And then all parallelograms have two pairs of parallel sides. It doesn't matter what kind of parallelogram you are, you must have two pairs of parallel sides. That means a shape cannot be both a parallelogram and a trapezoid at the same time. So frustrating when my chat disappears. There we go. The kite. Does the kite have any pairs of parallel lines? Kites have 0 parallel lines. They have two congruent sides that are next to each other at the top and two congruent sides that are next to each other at the bottom, but 0 parallel lines. So you can't be a kite and a trapezoid. You can't be a kite and a parallelogram. It just doesn't work. So we kind of skipped ahead and we did slide 2. That's what we were making or drawing with, right? So let's go to slide 3. What can you mark in the square? So what can you tell me about the sides of a square? Don't everybody talk at once. Are they congruent? Yes. Yeah. And how do I mark those? With ticks, absolutely. Are they parallel? Yeah. They are. How do I mark those? With arrows. So we mark parallel with arrows and congruent with tick marks. What about the angles? What can you tell me about the angles? Are they all congruent? Yes. They are, because they are all right. So you need to mark these. When I go look at your slides today, I'm going to look to see that they're complete. Okay? They're all right. Does that mean they're supplementary? What does supplementary mean? They add up to? 180. It is absolutely 180. So those two angles are supplementary, and those two angles are supplementary, and those two angles are supplementary. All the adjacent angles in a square are supplementary. They add up to 180 because they're all 90 degrees, right? What about the diagonals? So this is why you needed to actually draw this or make the shape or draw it. If I take my shape literally and I fold it in half, is there a line of symmetry there? Is it exactly the same on the diagonal? You fold your square? If you fold your square the other way, is there a line of symmetry? Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So when I make those diagonals, they are 100% congruent. Have they been bisected? Are all of those the same length? Yeah. They are 100%. And they also form alternate interior angles. So this angle is the same as this angle. And I need you to draw all of these little dots. This angle is the same as this angle. And this angle is the same as this angle. They're alternate. One's on the top and one's on the bottom. One's on the top and one's on the bottom. Okay. Alternate interior angles are all of my dots. So I'm going to give you a minute and make sure your square slide looks like mine. I know I can draw a lot faster than you can. You need to mark those congruent sides. Mark the parallel sides. Mark the congruent and supplementary angles. And then mark the diagonals. Say it again.
How do you draw?
On the Pear Deck, you can draw. On the Google Slides, you would have to use the tools at the top. So if you go to the Schoology page where you went to the assignment, there should be a Pear Deck link. Does the Pear Deck link work?
Yeah.
Yeah? Let me put it in the chat in case somebody needs it there. So I know it's kind of obnoxious how often we're using Pear Deck. There we go. But it definitely is helpful. We ready to go talk about the rhombus? Today's just going to be a talking and drawing day. It's going to be kind of boring. Okay. Sammy, it looks like you're trying to talk. Did you have something you wanted to say?
No, maybe just finally went on mute or fell out something.
Okay. You can also screen capture it and come back. And I'm making a video, so I'll post a video later today too. So if you miss something, you can always get it there. Oh my gosh, do we really only have 10 minutes left of class? It's crazy. All right. So if I push that rhombus over to make, or square over to make a rhombus, what do we know about the sides? Are they still congruent? Yeah, so we're going to mark those with tick marks. Are they still parallel? Yeah, so I take my square and I push it over to make a rhombus. Those sides are still parallel. How do I mark the parallel sides? Somebody to themselves unmute, I'm sure, said arrows, right? So we're going to do congruent with tick marks and parallel with arrows. Are the angles congruent? Or maybe I should say which angles are congruent? So my acute angles are going to be congruent. We mark those with angle loops. And my obtuse angles are going to be congruent. There's angles that are bigger than 180 degrees. So if I take one of each, acute plus obtuse equals 180. Acute plus obtuse equals 180 degrees. So if I take any acute angle and add it to the obtuse angle that's next to it, they're going to equal 180 degrees. Okay, taking the right angles from the square, and we've made one bigger and one smaller. Taking the right angles from the square and made one bigger and one smaller. So when I push my rectangle or my square over, are the diagonals still congruent? Or is one longer and one shorter? One's longer and one's shorter, absolutely. So these are not congruent anymore. I've got one short diagonal and one long diagonal, but they are still bisected. So that long diagonal is cut in half by the short diagonal, and the short diagonal is cut in half by the long diagonal. And they still form alternate interior angles. So this upper left angle is exactly the same as this lower right angle. And I definitely do want you to put these dots in here, even though it's obnoxious. And this upper right angle is the same as this lower left angle. And this little acute angle is the same as this little acute angle. And this guy is the same as this one. The other thing that happens is these two are exactly the same. And these two are exactly the same. So the green and the yellow equal, and the orange and the red equal. So red equals orange, and green equals yellow. Those guys are the same because the angle's been bisected. So that angle has been bisected. So a lot to draw in a rhombus. So the rhombus can be folded in half along that diagonal, which means these angles are sliced in half. Same thing if I do it the other way. If I fold this guy down, and I don't know if you can see my profile picture. Got a lot going on with multiple screens and pictures. But these obtuse angles are folded in half, so both of those are exactly the same. They've been cut in half. I want to try to do one more shape. Can we go on to the next shape? Or are we still drawing? Okay, in the absence of a no, I'm going to go to the rectangle. If you need to screen capture, and I'll post the video as soon as we're done with class, okay? So we're going to go to the rectangle. Are the sides congruent?
Yeah.
They are. The top two sides are the same, and like the two long sides are the same and the two short sides are the same. Are they parallel?
Yeah.
They are. So we can do parallel arrows and parallel arrows. So I've got sides that are congruent and sides that are parallel. Are angles congruent? You betcha. What's special about all the angles of a rectangle?
90 degrees.
90 degrees, fantastic. Okay, so now we know about our sides, we know about our angles, we need to talk about diagonals. So what do I know about the diagonals of a rectangle? Are they going to be congruent? They are. So they are not only congruent, but they have also been bisected. So all of those sides are exactly the same. I've formed 4 isosceles triangles. The 2 triangles on the left are isosceles and congruent, and the 2 on the top and the bottom are isosceles and congruent. They also form all of those interior angles. So these 4 are going to be all the same. Makes life a little easier. Let's get orange. And then these 4 are going to be all the same because they're isosceles triangles. right? So I've got alternate interior angles that are congruent.
Yours looks so much nicer than mine.
The struggle is real with our digital tools. I don't judge neatness. I just judge effort. So I'm just looking at whatever you can make that's closest to this as possible. And if you started working ahead of us, that's cool. Just make sure you have everything now that we're together. I'm going to give you another minute to do this. And then we'll call class for the day since it is 10:06, 10:07. So if you want to scroll through these, you'll see where we're going to pick up tomorrow. So we're going to do the parallelogram and the two trapezoids tomorrow. And then we're going to talk about some things on how they link together. If you have not made the hologram projector, you can still do that. The directions are right here. But then we're going to go on and talk about how quadrilaterals are used in steering mechanisms still in cars today. Okay. So we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to talk about how it's different when we're trying to expand like drawers or jewelry boxes. Some fancy desks and baskets do this, or even toys like hobby horses. These all use quadrilaterals, but they use them a little bit different than the suspension in your car and the turning mechanism in your car. So that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow. Okay? Don't forget about the questionnaire that you're going to get today, right? Look for that and share all of that SOL information with your parents if you have an SOL that you need to take. Otherwise, I'll see you guys all tomorrow.
Can I technically stay with you for my lunch break?
You can, except I have to go downstairs and take care of my dogs. But I'll be back if you want to share your video with me. I'd love to see it. Oh, tomorrow? Maybe work on it during lunch and then share it with me tomorrow. Yep. Yep. Oh. So you're fixing it up? Good.